Charting the common currency curse. Hello and welcome to today's Daily Blitz. And in today's video, we'd just like to visualize the common currency curse using a very useful chart that's come out of Deutsche Bank of all places. It's this one here, you'll see it on your screen now, and it may seem quite complex from the outset, but we'll try and walk you through it because we think there's some very interesting insights that you can actually glean from it. So Nikolai, from a very basic level, what exactly are we looking at here?
So on the y-axis, we've got the spread above what the German government pays in terms of interest, which means, for example, Norway is paying about 2% more than Germany does when it borrows money. And on the x-axis, we've got the debt rating, which basically means how credible that government's debt is. So on the far right-hand side, we've got, for example, Greece, which has a very low rating, and Turkey as well.
Right, so on the left-hand side, we've got the interest rate paid on 10-year government debt. And then on the bottom axis, we have the credit rating that investors grant all of these various governments, how creditworthy they are for investors. And what exactly is this line going up right through the middle?
Well, this line is showing sort of where the interest rate should be given the debt rating of a country. So obviously, the worse your debt rating, the higher your interest rate should be. But what it's really pointing out is that the countries using the euro as their currency have a suspiciously low level of interest rate given the rating that their debt is getting. So for example, Greece and Turkey have about the same debt rating, but Greece pays a tiny amount of interest compared to what Turkey does. Same examples for Italy and Portugal compared to Hungary, and so on and so forth. So just to repeat, the point being that countries using the euro and borrowing in terms of euros are paying less interest than comparatively similar countries in terms of the debt rating.
Now, I would have first thought that this was just simply a result of the European Central Bank and its ultra-low interest rates. But there is more going on here than simply that, right?
That's right. So it suggests that there's a suspicious amount of sort of pressure on interest rates within the Eurozone, that the ECB is trying to suppress interest rates to prevent another European sovereign debt crisis. Really, countries inside the Euro should be borrowing at about the same level of interest as countries outside the Eurozone if they have the same sort of debt rating. But that's not what's happening.
It's more about the currency itself then?
It could be about the currency itself, the credibility of the euro, and there's two ways that manifests itself. The first one is especially interesting. It suggests that basically bond investors are betting that Germany would bail out other Eurozone countries. So those other Eurozone countries are piggybacking off the credibility of the German bond market, the German bunds, and they're basically punting on the idea that if there is a sovereign debt crisis, Germans will bail out the other countries.
Right, so you'd expect actually those interest rates to move quite significantly if Germany made, any mention that they wouldn't be interested in bailing out the rest of the Eurozone.
And that's why bond investors should be paying so much attention to politics in Germany and the rise of the AfD and so on and so forth. The other possible reason for all of this is that inflation within the Eurozone is unusually low for whatever reason. So the common market shares effectively one set of consumer goods that can move throughout it, which suggests that inflation should be quite low because at any given time, those consumer goods can move within the common market. So we've had high inflation in Turkey, for example, because Turkey is an isolated country by itself. But in the Eurozone, if one country sees unusual amounts of inflation, the consumer goods just move and that cancels out the inflation. So the common currency should have a lower rate of inflation, and that's reflected in these bond rates.
But we do call it a common currency curse, and that is simply because effectively all of the savers in that area that are sharing that currency are getting destroyed by these low interest rates, which are then backed up by Germany with their ultra-low interest rates, right?
That's right. So it's punishing people inside the Eurozone who are savers. It's great for governments to borrow, but it's bad for investors. And as you've pointed out in past editorial, the countries, as you can see on the chart again, the English-speaking countries, you call them the Five Eyes, have quite high rates of interest given the same sort of debt ratings. So, for example, Canada, the US, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK have higher rates of interest than similar countries within the Eurozone that have the same debt ratings. And that suggests that those economies are doing better, or at least a better deal for savers in those economies.
Yeah, so it's less likely that savers are going to be punished as harshly within the Five Eyes intelligence network, for whatever reason that is, than they would be in the Eurozone. But that sums up today's Daily Blitz. We hope you enjoyed looking at this chart. We certainly found it very interesting. If you'd like to hear more from us, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell below, and we'll see you in the next one.